Okay, and hello and welcome. My name is Martin, and today we're going to be making another enemy. This one is going to be called the zombie. The reason why I call it the zombie is because it kind of just sits there and waits for you to show up, and then once it does, it auto senses you and starts chasing you. Sort of like what a zombie does. It just kind of sits there and doesn't do anything until it sees food, and then goes brains and wants to chase you for that. Okay, so first thing that we want to do is right click on this, go ahead and copy. We'll go ahead and paste it into the area here. So that way we'll have another copy. Let's go ahead and rename this. So this will be project 4 since this is a new project, project 4 underscore zombie. Okay, let's double click into the folder and do the same thing. So let's right click there, rename, and zombie. Project 4 underscore zombie. Okay, once we've got the name, let's double click and enter. Alright, so the way that we're going to build our zombie, it's actually a different type of character. So it is a character as opposed to being a pawn. Everything else that we have created thus far has been a pawn. So what we're going to do is double click into contents, go into evil cubes, and here we will create a new folder. We'll call this folder zombie. Okay, double click inside a zombie, and what we need to do now is right click to create a blueprint class. Once we've got that, we do have character as one of the options, and we'll go ahead and call this zombie. All right, once we've got the zombie, let's go ahead and double click and open it up. First thing, let's go ahead and add a character because there is actually no character in there. So let's go ahead and add component cube. Let me fix my cube. There we go. And going along with the rock theme, let's go ahead and pick another rock. Oops, that's not how you do it. Rock. And I don't believe I've used the slate. Okay, there's the slate. Now the other thing is that the capsule and the cube are not the same size. They're a little bit off of each other. I want the cube to be completely inside of the capsule. So let's click on the capsule. And where is it? There it is. Underneath shape, we're going to change this to 100 by 100. And that gives us a nice little sphere. And then that way, when we start using the capsule for other things, it'll be the proper size and everything. The other thing that we can also do while we're here is we could go ahead and make sure that the collision settings are correct for the capsule. So with that, since we happen to be on the capsule, let's go ahead and scroll down. And there are collision settings. Let's go ahead and open this up. And what we need is for it to generate hits, we do need the overlap to be on. We don't want the character to be able to step on the capsule. We do need this to be a custom event, so let's go ahead and hit custom. And from there, we do want to make sure that both the query and the physics are working. Pawn is selected. And I want to keep visibility and camera on block. Let's leave the world statistic and the dynamic on, otherwise we'll fall right through the floor. We are going to ignore pawns, physics, vehicles, and this. And we are going to overlap with projectile. Okay, so those are the settings that we need for the collision on the capsule component. From there, let's go to the cube itself, and let's get its collision settings correct. Those settings are going to be real quick. Okay, so we do need it to generate a hit. Okay, we do need it to do overlaps. Can the character stand on this component? Probably not. We don't want it to be able to stand on this. We do need this to be a custom. We do need query and physics on. And let's from world dynamic change this to world static. After that, everything stays in the blocked column. All right, so let's go ahead and save so that way we don't mess that up, or we save it. The other couple of things that we're going to need to do is obviously we need to give this thing motion. So let's create a floating motion just like the other cube. So we're going to add component, floating, I can't spell, there it is, floating component. All right. Not much that we need to do in here. It's just giving it the ability to be able to float across, just like the homing missile. The other thing we'll need is pawn sensing. Now, since this is a character, you are able to add other things to this, and let's go ahead and do that by typing in pawn sensing. And this will be the type of AI that we have. This is what's going to recognize our character and start coming after it. Once you put the pawn sensing, you have to hit compile and save. And then if you go back and click on it, you will finally get the information for that. So let's very quickly scroll out and see. This is actually a lot of sensing. With the pawn sensing selected, let's look over in the details panel. And there's two kinds. There is hearing and there is sight. So the one we're going to concern ourselves with is sight, since we should be able to hear us. Anyways, we are visible. We're not generating any noises. So I mean our gun is generating noises. So I guess we could do this off of hearing, but we're going to do this from sight. So we have the hearing. We have the sight, we can expand it so it can see more. We can contract it so that it sees less. The intervals are important. We want to make sure that what this means is that every 5 seconds it's renewing the search for us. So this means that it's constantly sensing for us if it's every half a second. And then we do want it to see and sense players. We do want it to see pawns, and we do, I guess at this point, still want to hear noise. Now the other interesting thing that we can do is we can change the angle at which this can sense. So I like to leave this somewhere between 40 and 60. So I'm going to go ahead and type in 60 just so I have a nice number. And if we zoom back in on the pawn, we'll see that at 60, what this really does is it makes it to where it can only see really in front of it, just like above it and right in front of it. If I was to walk to the left or to the right of this character, this character, I can say that because it's a character now, it would not be able to sense us. So it just depends on the level of sensibility that you want. Do you want the character to be able to see next to it or just in front of it? So let me put that back to 60. Because that's the way I like it. So let's zoom back out. And then the other thing in the zoom back out, what I want to show is that if we change the sight radius, we can actually make this see just up close. So this could be a blind zombie, something that you have to be right there, or a visually impaired zombie. Or it could have really, not that one, this one. It could have really good vision. It can see from very far away. So if you're creating a game where maybe there's like a grunt, maybe you want to put the sight close because maybe the grunt is there, but maybe if you have a sniper, you would want to have the sight very long, so then that way the sniper could actually do its job. All right, so with those things, let's go ahead and hit compile and save. So all this that we've done so far has been in the viewport or in the components window. Let's now move over to the event graph, and there are a couple of pieces of code that we're going to have to write for this. So the first one is going to be the motion itself. So let's go ahead and click on pawn sensing. So you do have to have this selected in the components panel. Let's right click, and now let's add event from pawn, event dispatcher, and there is add on pawn seeing. Okay, so this is going to now give the ability of sight to all the other stuff was talking about how and where it was going to see, but this is actually creating the ability for it to see. And what we want it to see is the cast to first person player. So cast to first person, character. And let's go ahead and we make sure that the pawn and the object are connected. So then that way it's the pawn sensing is going to the character and the pawn is seeing the character. Then we have to create the AI. So the AI move. So let's type in AI move to, and this will be a task. So it'll be the one that has a little star next to it. And from here, we'll need to do a couple of things. So let's click off of the pawn. We need to tell it that it needs to be itself, that it needs to get, right? So it's going to be moving itself. So we're going to go ahead and click on that for it to be the self. And then we need it to target the actor. Okay. And the other thing before we go is let's make the acceptance radius of this very small. So then that way it'll get real close to us. So let's hit compile and save. Now the other thing that we want to do is that we don't actually have the explosion sprite is missing. So if we were to shoot this right now, or if we were to run into it, nothing really would happen. Right now all we've set up is just how it sees us. So in order to set the other one up, I'm not going to close this, I'm just going to minimize it. And let's go back to the Evil Cubes folder and let's click on S-Mine and double click inside there. And this was the code that we set up earlier about how to hit, and this is what we use for both the M missile and for the mine. So what we're going to do is go ahead and copy this. So Control C, and let's close this one and go back to the zombie. All right, so there's the zombie. And let's go ahead and paste. So we're going to just right click in the area. I usually click kind of far away because if I click here, it's going to paste right over this code. So I saw about the size of the code that it was. So I'm clicking way up there. And let's hit Control V. All right. So now we have our code for the explosion. A couple of things that we have to do. Right off the bat, this variable is not here. So we need to recreate this variable, and the better way to do this is to go ahead and erase this event and the variable itself and actually click out from the value and go ahead and redo it. So once you click out, you'll get the list. You'll hit promote to value, and once the promote to value is there, you can go ahead and select that and give it a name. And I like giving it a slightly different name than what I had in the pawn. So let's go ahead and call this explosion. Explosion, and let's call it number 2. So explosion 2. Once that's there, we can click somewhere outside the box, and then that way it will actually create itself and be in the variables panel. With it still selected, let's go to on end play. And I love the way it does that. I wish it would just put it next to here. Anyways, once that's there, this is a custom event, or an event that once this happens, we want it to, or once the variable gets there, we want it to destroy itself. So it's destroy actor. And again, since it's self, it's going to be targeting it back to itself. Now, what we did with the homing missile to get it to come all the way up to us and actually explode on contact was that we had a on component hit that was really an on component overlap. So we need to create this code again, or copy it again, and actually do this for the overlap. And actually, before we do that, I'll explain why. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to hit compile. Let's go ahead and hit play, and let's go into the area. And I don't actually think I have any zombies out there. So let's stop that and grab a zombie and put it out there. And let's make sure that it's sensing in the right way. So I'm going to turn this guy around. I'll explain this in a moment when we get back to this. I just want to show you what's happening. So if I come right now, see how he walks towards me, but he doesn't explode? He's just sitting there. So if I walk into him, I still can't do anything, right? But I can shoot him. So the on hit is working, but we need to have an on collision overlap to get it to actually collide with us, right? So let's stop this and let's go back into the zombie. So we'll double click into the zombie and let's grab this code. We're going to hit Control C again. I'm going to scroll up a little bit and hit Control V. The other issue that I was having with this that was quite frustrating was that the sprite kept showing up. And you'll actually see that we're getting two warnings. One, that we're using the same event, so we could have just gone into a sequence or broken the event off. So it's saying, hey, you have two of these. This could be dangerous. So let's go ahead and get rid of that one, which we already know we're going to change. And the other thing is the variable again. Again, we're having issues with the variable because this is now a different event. So we're going to have to do this again. So let's right click off of here or click and drag, promote to variable. Let's click on the variable so we know that we have that one selected. Let's rename this and we'll call it explosion3 and hit enter so then that way it takes. And again, with it selected, let's go and click on end play. Let's move that up here and do the same thing. We're going to drag off of the execute and type in destroy actor. All right, so almost ready. We just need to now create the this one, remember, is the on component hit, and now we have to have the on component overlap. So with the cube selected, we're going to right click in the area, click on add event from cube, collision, on component begin overlap. So with that, we'll scroll down here and that should now be everything. So let's go ahead and hit compile and save and play, and let's see what happens. So still having an issue. Probably what we forgot to do was to go into the first person character and change settings for them, so then that way they will react to the pawn. So let's go to first person blueprint, go to blueprints and open up the first person blueprint. Let's go into the capsule for the first person blueprint and scroll down to collisions. And the changes that we need to make are going to be to the, that's going to be the same, no. This is going to change from that to a custom. And we want to change this to projectile. And let's see, we also need it to do the overlap with the pawn. And that we want it to ignore the projectile so that it actually, once we get shot, it'll let us get through. All right, so we'll do there and we'll hit, then we need to check the box itself, so the collision box. So let's click on the collision box and components and scroll down until you see its collision settings. And from there, we need to have generate hit and overlap, and we need to switch these to block. We're going to block the world. We're going to allow the pawn to be in an overlap. And let's have it, for now, ignore the projectile. So compile, save, and let's see and check and see if that makes a difference. Okay, let's walk towards this. Wonderful. Everything blew up all at the same time. Whoops. Let's go back. And what I want to do now is I want to go through a couple of tests. I want to see if I have multiple characters, what happens to them. So let me hit delete on some of the other characters, and let's add some more of the zombies. So let's go to cubes, zombies, and let's add a few in here at different distances, and let's turn them around. Oh, also, as we add these to the area, you'll notice that this is one of the reasons why I like having it at 60, because I can tell what direction my pawn is actually facing. I mean, obviously, if you were to scroll in close enough, you would get the little arrow that comes out to let you know. But I just think it's so much easier that to be able to actually see it as oh, okay, it's going in this direction. So let's move this guy back here so he doesn't sense us until we actually get around the corner. These two are to check to see what happens if multiple ones, and actually let's put a third one there. Multiple zombies are close to us, like if they were all to approach us at the same time, what would happen? So let's see what direction these guys are in. Okay, so that guy was fine. Let's click on him, turn him around there, and let's do that to the last one. Okay, so these three are going to be facing me as I walk into the area. Let's check, let's click on this last one back here. I'm wondering if that is for me. I don't know. Let's see. Ugh, things are in the way. Let me zoom in so I can click on it. Ugh, that was... Oh, okay. And what I'll do is I'll leave this one pointing back. So these three are going to face us. We're going to see what's going to happen if multiple of the same unit come and attack us at the same time. This one we're going to keep back there so it won't actually be able to see us until we round the corner. So we want to see if that happens. And we want to see if what happens with this one if we walk right up behind it. So let's go ahead and hit save and play, and I'm going to move somewhere here so then that way at least those will... Okay, so no issues there. I didn't get pushed back. I still have not been seen by that one or by this one. So let's walk around the corner. So that one immediately started seeing us and started coming towards us. And with this one, because the sensing is all the way behind it, or in front of it, and we're behind it, let's see how close we can actually get before it starts to see us. There it is. So well within that 60. Okay, and that's it for this one. So we've got our zombies moving. We've got them sensing only in one direction. We've got them moving slower than the homing missiles, and of course you can change that by going into the floating and finding speed and slowing them down. So a number of different things that we can do. Wonderful. Next project or the next tutorial will be creating a rotating turret that shoots projectiles and stays in one position. Okay, wonderful. Have a great day. Bye-bye.